I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's podcast. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to introduce to you today Beverly Price. She actually owns her own business, Her Empowered Divorce Coaching, and she's got a separate gig that I'm going to let her tell you about, the Divorce Coalition. But I'm really eager to delve deep into your career journey today, Beverly. So if you could just start with giving us about a 90-second overview of what you do and why you got into it, that would be awesome.
Sure. Well, I've been a divorce coach for over 30 years and I've experienced divorce myself. And so from that, I bring a passion to what I'm doing. I believe that I want people to have a much less stressful, more educated experience in divorce than I had myself. So I emphasize preparation and education in what I do.
And that is awesome. And there's nothing quite like personal experience to help you be the
Right.
perfect guide for people, right?
hmm
Share with us how long ago was your divorce?
It was the latest one was 10 years ago
Okay.
because I have been divorced more than once. And I want to say to people that have been divorced more than once, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
That's good for you to share because I know that it's still divorce is still looked down on. I mean,
hmm
it's yeah, everybody's criticizing and just wondering why you couldn't make your marriage work or we didn't try hard enough and all of the things. So
Right.
well, and I know too because you've been doing coaching for 30 years, and I
hmm
know that coaching as a career has just recently, like in the last 5 to 10 years, kind of taken off, and a
Right.
lot of people are hanging their shingle out as a coach. So
hmm
I would love for you to share with me a little bit about what makes you unique in the way that you're helping, and especially with that focus on the divorce market.
Sure. Um, I have coached, as you said, for many, many years. And what makes my process unique is that I do one on one personal coaching and I emphasize preparation and education as well as communication skills, negotiation skills. Many divorce coaches emphasize the emotional side of it, and I also work on someone's emotions, but I find that the preparation is so key. I've had women come to me where they're kind of hanging on the edge because they told their spouse they want a divorce and the spouse erupted. Well, I
Mhm.
take my clients through a process where we actually role play the conversation, we analyze the situation, we plan plan where it's held, when it's going to be held in relation to any conversation if their children are involved. And so what I've found is that preparation is key because that conversation affects the entire time of the divorce and the tone, just very critically in that. Education, I believe, is absolutely critical because attorneys don't necessarily have time to share all the education with somebody. When you're coming to a divorce, you're rattled, you're scared, you're angry. There's so many emotions that it's hard to do research on your own. And it helps to have a partner with that to tell you the ins and outs, what mistakes to avoid, what you need to do to be technologically safe, to be financially safe, those types of things I work with someone on.
Well, and I think, what I love about the work that you're doing is that you're helping people in a time when their world is chaos. I
Yes.
mean, they're even if they haven't said the D word out loud yet, they're all over the place emotionally, and we just can't function as well when we're in that emotional chaos. And
Absolutely.
I think it'll serve our audience well to know too that you as a coach, you're not providing mental health business or
Correct.
processes. You're not dealing with historical stuff, trauma and repairing
Right.
that damage. And you're literally in the here and now and helping people, pull their stuff together so that they
Hmm.
make informed decisions and be safe while doing it.
Yeah, the way I contrast a therapist versus a coach is that a therapist focuses back in time, and
Right.
a coach focuses on present and future, unless there are certain situations that are unique, trauma, things like that, that a therapist needs that affect a person now, but the past is where the trauma occurred. So, and I will work with someone, and if I feel they need a therapist, I will recommend that they get one as well.
Absolutely. And I know that you and I agree on the fact that divorce, when people are divorcing, typically the first professional they think of is a divorce attorney, but it
Right.
literally takes a team and a village to help people through that divorce because we've all got our areas of expertise. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and
and
I believe and recommend in a team of an attorney, a financial professional, and a divorce coach to round out and get the most support possible. A lot of people think of divorce as a beginning and an end, and I'll get through this only if I win. But divorce lasts you the rest of your life. It affects you financially, emotionally, and many other ways. And so it's important when you're making decisions to look at the short term as well as the long term effect.
that is so critical. And I love the way you said that. The kind of we're looking at it as if there's a beginning and then there's an end, and my goal is to win, right? Well,
Right.
nobody's really winning, but
Exactly.
how do we get through this process? And the fact, especially if you have children, the divorce stays with you. It's always
Exactly.
mine. Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me, with being in the coaching industry, what do you see as one of the biggest problems in the industry, and what are you doing to solve that?
Um, I think the biggest problem is people that hang their shingle up and say they're a divorce coach without training and without experience. In my case, I'm a certified divorce coach, so I've been through specific divorce training experience. And then what you have is when you have those people, and I remember talking to a woman who was just opening up her shop, and she said, well, I went through a divorce, so now I'm a divorce coach. Well, there are so many different kinds of divorce. There are so many different personalities. There's so much different experiences that if you haven't had the proper training, you can actually harm rather than help.
And that's why I think it's really important that when people are hiring any professional, that they truly vet the professionals.
Absolutely.
And talk to me about, and I'm asking these specific questions because we are both in that divorce space, but I'm curious to know, how do people respond to having to spend money having someone like you on their team?
Well, most of them say they've spent all their money on a lawyer. They're not going to spend anything else. Well, I can prove that I can actually save you money by helping you through the process and not having the attorney do some of the things that I can do. Also, I can show you when we work on certain elements, that can create a more favorable response to you in the long run.
And that's the thing I think is really important for people to know. You may be spending a little bit of money to get what you need, but
Mhm,
the benefits far outweigh the cost and actually
mhm,
saves you money in other places. And I can say
absolutely.
that, the same thing as a CDFA or certified divorce financial analyst, that's, they pay, me for my help, but they
Right.
actually end up saving money, making more informed decisions around their money and division of
Yep.
assets. So yeah, we're on the same train with that
Yeah,
conversation, right?
absolutely.
Mhm. Well, and tell me, where do you see your industry going? And maybe tell us a little bit about your coalition. I'm curious to hear about that.
Okay. In terms of where divorce coaching is going, I hope it's moving toward a more formal licensing process. I think the certification process is good, but I think we could be more credible if we had licensing. I think the other thing that we can have is some type of protection when we testify in court that
Mm.
we don't have now. Those are a couple of things that I see. I see a lot of people that, again, hang up their shingle and can't make the business work. So I think you'll see fall off, if you will, with some of those people um, and those things. Now, to talk about the coalition is I run the Divorce Coalition, which is a nonprofit organization aimed at improving the divorce process for domestic abuse survivors.
Okay.
We're not helping survivors directly. We are helping the professionals who deal with the survivor in court.
Mm.
So what we're looking at doing are things like surveys to get the survivor perspective on divorce, survey to get professional experience, thoughts, biases. And then we'd love to create a certification program for divorce professionals in domestic abuse.
That is so huge. And I know I have training as a mediator and, in domestic violence and mediation. And that
Mhm,
is very, very unique because you don't
mhm.
think of somebody um, who's been domestically abused. You wouldn't think that would be a good opportunity for a mediation
Right.
conversation, right?
And a lot of people misunderstand that. And there's different kinds of abuse. I think people think it's just being hit or being bruised. And there's probably 10 or more additional forms of abuse that aren't showing physical signs, but in many cases can have longer lasting, deeper consequences.
And I couldn't agree with you more. Thinking of my personal experience, I was just on a call with a potential client yesterday who was telling me that her husband's locked her out of all her accounts. She has
Mhm.
no access to money except for what he gives her. And
Right.
that's a form of abuse right there.
Right. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things in terms of preparation that I do with the client is I ask them to talk to their attorney about pulling money out of accounts before you tell your spouse that you want a divorce. That may be appropriate in some states. It may not be appropriate in some states. Just the same as changing the locks on a house may work somewhere and may work other way. And that's what's so important is to get advice from trained personnel in your area because laws vary from county to county. And one thing I see that's very troubling is there are a lot of Facebook groups out there, and someone will ask a question, and you'll see this string of answers, and they don't ask where you live, they don't ask any specifics. And people start offering advice, and that's darn dangerous.
And I'm in a couple of those Facebook groups too, and I cringe because the unfortunate thing is the participants, the one that are seeking the information, they're relying on,
Yeah.
that information, and they're taking it, as the gospel, so to speak.
Hmm.
And it's just somebody's opinion, and
Right.
it can't be any more than that. And
Exactly.
we really need to educate, the women that are in these support groups and Facebook groups and such, that
Right.
it is just general information. It's not advice. That's
Hmm.
really important.
Yeah.
Well, I would love for you to share with us what's the biggest challenge that you faced to this point in life, whether that's personal or professional, and how it shaped the way that you're doing business today.
Oh, wow. That's a deep question, a very good question. Um, I think what really affects me the most is my experience. Not only have I been divorced, but I've also been a domestic abuse survivor, and I'm also a woman, and I'm also in my 60s. And so bringing together all of that with the knowledge of divorce helps me be a better coach, helps me see things from different perspectives. I'm not telling the client what to do, but I'm either making suggestions or I'm asking them questions.
And that's so important. So, and I find I'm always delighted when I talk to people who are motivated to do the work that they do because of the
Mhm.
life experiences that they've had,
Yep.
because they know they can make it better for other people. And that
Mhm.
sounds like where you've come from. You're
Absolutely. Yeah.
sharing those very personal, vulnerable experiences and really changing the way people divorce. So
Right.
that's good. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
Share with me, if you could have lunch with any human, living or deceased,
Oh
who would
my.
that be and why?
I think I would like to speak to Ruth Ginsburg.
Yeah.
And the reason is that she made such progress in her life for herself and for everyone else. She stayed strong when all the odds were against her.
Mhm.
And she proved something that a lot of people said could never be proved. So I just very much believe in what she's done.
That is so awesome. And I have to share, it's not the first time her name has come up. So it's
Yeah.
amazing, but a very powerful woman. And to think of the strides that she took, and she did it in with such a calm demeanor.
Right.
I would expect that I would not be so calm and polite. Oh,
Right.
oh my goodness. Okay. So, and what's the best way for people to reach out to you, contribute, work with you, all of the things?
Sure. Well, you can go to my website, herempowereddivorce.com. You can email me at Beverly at herempowereddivorce.com, or you can call me at 704-989-7823.
Okay, that's awesome. And I hope everybody will take advantage of that. And just, I want to share from my personal experience how valuable working with a divorce coach can be, because, when you're in that divorce process, we don't know what we need to know. I mean, we don't
Right.
even know what questions to ask. And just having a coach to be there with you at your side and helping you navigate through that process is very empowering. So the work that you do is very valuable, and we appreciate it. So thank you
I,
so
I
much.
believe we're as important as a CDFA. I
Yes,
think it's like if you think about a stool with three legs, you have to have the three legs for it to stand strong.
that's right. That's right. And we so appreciate you being a guest today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Donna.
You're welcome. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money, it's also about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you desire.